Welcome everyone to the last live stream of this week. So we had our usual 2 live streams of the week, except I held one yesterday and today. And again, yesterday was in replacement for the usual weekly Wednesday huddles that I conduct for my CFO members, okay, my private CFO members. So if you guys are interested in that, DM me at ChartsFocus1 on Instagram or even on Twitter. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and start. So as you guys can see by the title and the description box below, we had some losses in the morning, and a lot of people did, especially people who swung calls on specific names. Now, sometimes people ask me, how are you able to, just feel that, I guess, emotion of feeling like, oh my God, I feel like I risked too much on this trade overnight, right? I don't really tend to feel that way because, again, I know what I'm risking, right? And if there is such a catalyst like today and overnight, right, where the markets were spooked out by the fact that, Federal Reserve or the FOMC meeting minutes indicated that yes, that all the members agree to another interest rate hike, and specifically another 25 BP basis points, which is pretty much expected by the federal funds futures market. So I think, first of all, I think the gap down that we got today across every market and all the other individual sectors priced in the 25 BP interest rate hike that comes in the next FOMC meeting. We do have CPI data coming out next week as well, which could be a potential topping out catalyst where, who knows, we might even get a higher print, a higher reading compared to the expected CPI data. So again, the core CPI is what really matters, but again, the overall headline CPI is what people kind of react to, but the Federal Reserve tends to look at the core CPI. So with that in mind and all the catalysts that kind of affected the markets today, let's go over what happened. So CRM was one of the names. Actually, let me go over PATH first. So, excuse me, guys. So PATH, we got a nice entry point on Monday. And we saw a nice push up higher, over $17 and out of this descending level of resistance. But due to the overnight's gap down, we actually got a move lower and we actually hit the daily 50 SMA again. So this is the second time that we have retested this area or the daily 50 SMA. And if you guys know where the first time is, well, it's right here, right? So you just have to look at it with your naked eye. All right. So sometimes people ask me, it's not a bad question, but it's sometimes people ask me, how do you know it retested multiple times or a specific number of times? Well, I just kind of look at it, right? And at some point it becomes a bit subjective, right? So some people might say, this has retested the daily 50 SMA for a third time today because they consider this one and this one, the second one, and then today as the third one. But from my subjective perspective, I just kind of generally think that this is the first area that we retested on the daily 50 SMA. And then today was the second general area that we retested the daily 50 SMA. So what does this mean? Well, it could mean that we can come back down to retest the daily 50 SMA again, just like we did in these 2 daily candlesticks. Okay? So that's all that means. All right, that's all I'm saying, and that's all I mean when I'm talking about the daily 50 SMA. So now with PATH here, I'm not really worried. I didn't cut my position at all today. I didn't do any damage control on PATH because again, I have time. I can always roll out to further out contracts. So I have contracts that expire on July 28th. For these specific strikes that I have for PATH. And if I don't see it going up to $18 soon, all right, the first profit target here, once you're able to come back and break out over this descending level of resistance that is a part of the broader macro descending channel, I will roll out to August contracts, and I already know what strikes that I want to get, because again, I have provided the game plan, the analysis, and the actual trade to my private CFO members. So all I need to tell them is that I'm going to roll up into those specific August expiring contracts for PATH. Okay, but again, really good bounce so far on this nice retest and bounce on the daily 50 SMA. All right, so this one I didn't do much at all. Well, I didn't touch the position at all. Okay, so the next one was CRM. So this one I had to do a bit of damage control. So today morning, we saw a nice little bounce, right, after this gap down. I believe we were sitting at 212, wait. Okay, so we were sitting at 212 early in the morning, and then we pushed lower as the markets continued to push lower. That's right. Just kind of trying to remember here. So as we pushed lower, we opened up around 211.47, so slightly below 212, and then we started pushing up. So I was like, okay, if we do retest this 212 level, or specifically this descending level of resistance that I've outlined for you all multiple times on the daily time frame on yesterday's live stream, okay, I thought that we can get a little nice push up higher for a potential gap fill, but instead we went the complete opposite way. And so again, that didn't happen. Right? And so as it pushed lower, right, I was like, okay, you know what, I had to take out half. All right, let's take out half and let's see what happens. Okay, and so I took out half right when we broke below 209.50. All right, somewhere around there. And then I told my CFO members that I'm doing some damage control. Okay, and so and I took out, I believe, what was it? Yeah, so I took it out once we broke below 209.50. So around, I would say, if I remember correctly, it was around like 209.20ish. Okay, somewhere around there. Okay, so as we push lower, and so my memory is not that great right now. I've had a lot of meetings today, so my apologies, guys. But with this this type of damage control, you always want to have obviously a stop loss. But for this one, I was trying to see if I can kind of save this position that kind of was destroyed overnight, right? And you can't really do much with that big move overnight, right? Especially my logical stop loss would have been a break below 212, but obviously we actually ended up opening below 212, and we also saw a little push up higher. And in hindsight, always, hindsight is always 2020. I could have just completely taken out my entire position at the retest of 212, that whole number level here, or just at the simple retest of this decent level of resistance. But again, I had that preconception or pre-assumption that we could possibly break up higher as we were bouncing after open and potentially filling this gap. So I was kind of bullish going into the open, and unfortunately that did not work out well for me with having that bias. And so I just had to get out around that 209.20-ish level. And so, that's something that I can't really do much about. But the other half for today, it actually kind of recovered pretty well. And CRM, I've been actually going over with this with my members, my private members today all day, saying, and I told them that, okay, I need to see it hold a retest of the daily 50 SMA, which it did. So we actually went down to this general area or proximity of the daily 50 SMA, right? This dark blue line, which is my daily 50 SMA. And so this 208 level was also this. Obviously, it's a very big level on the daily. It's a very good support level, right? So if I bring this up here, right, we've seen the price hold multiple times just in the past 2 weeks, including this week. So obviously, 208 is a very significant level, but I just don't like the fact that we got this nice push down, right? We actually weren't able to hold over this descending level of resistance and then continue to go up higher as some sort of a retest. And so it would have been great if we kind of formed a nice long bottom wick at 212 today, but unfortunately that did not happen. And so my damage control was pretty good. I took out half. I just wished in hindsight that I got out when we saw that opening push. But again, you can't be perfect, right? Or else everyone would be having such great risk management styles and strategies. So with that in mind, we were able to really just manage things pretty well today, and thanks to the overall bounce today as well. So with that little review there on what happened to to CRM and PATH, let's go over what we did with Google. So Google was actually holding on pretty well here. So I basically told my members that I actually told them this last night, and my public members. So I sent in a screenshot of the newsletter, and so basically, here let me show you guys. Or actually, no, I actually can't show you guys. It's a little bit private here for my members only. But for the screenshot of the newsletter of this week, the number one technical chart setup was Google. And so I gave an entire analysis, a technical analysis outlook on Google. And I posted it as well on my Instagram stories, but I believe it's already gone now. So, but if it's still up there, guys, go ahead and go read it before it goes away. But I basically said that Google should be holding the daily 50 SMA. And that's exactly what we did today when we had the nice gap down, and we saw that move lower, and ultimately we kind of got really close to this 118 level. This was our previous kind of entry point for Google after that nice move down that we saw on the last week of June, and we had a nice entry for a swing trade to the upside. So I think for Google here, again, obviously we held the daily 50 SMA, and the fact that it's a lagging big tech name, there could be a chance for a lot of a larger move to the upside. So hopefully we can get things going for Google. So with that in mind, so with that longer term perspective in mind, since it is a laggard, let's take a look at the trade that we did today. Okay, so let me put you guys on mute here for just a second. All right, so with Google here, let me give you guys the actual trade here. So at 8:37 a.m., okay, so on this 15-minute candlestick, I said Google high risk swing trade, 121 calls that expire on July 14th, which is next Friday. And I said $1.06 per contract. So that's exactly what the price was when I got an entry, and I was filled in. And it was a perfect entry actually, because if you go into 5 minutes, so if you go closer in, okay. So I got in right at the break of this 18.80 resistance level. So I believe I actually waited a little bit more, and as we continue to push up higher, I got in around $118.85. And so we're able to push up higher and higher and higher, and for the rest of the day, we didn't even come back to retest the low of the day at $118.40. And what's amazing about this now, the entire day's price action, is that it kind of looks like we had a bear trap today. Because again, the first early hours of the market open, we had a nice flush down, but the entire of the day after, right after that initial morning flush down, we actually made new high of the day at 120.29. We continue to make new high of the day. And so with this very nice push up, we've created an intraday cup and handle. All right, so we have the cup and then we have the handle here. So let me give you guys a little brief drawing. So it's a very weird looking handle. Okay, so this is the cup and handle, which is inherently bullish. So if Google can break over, I would say around 120.30, we should be able to see a retest of this descending level of resistance again. And remember, okay, so Google was actually over and breaking over this descending level of resistance that is from the broader descending channel chart pattern, which was again what we were looking to see a breakout in and potentially hit this major level of resistance at 126. So that's the longer term perspective. But obviously nothing is ever perfect in the stock market, so we had to have this gap down. Ideally we didn't want that to happen, but that's what happened, so we got to accept it. So Google here, I expect tomorrow to be a nice recovery day when we start to fill in this gap down that we formed here. And once we're able to come back and at least have a little tiny pop over, I would say around 121.70 to 121.74, we should be able to see a nice full gap fill to the upside. Okay, and then once that happens, I want to see a retest of 122. All right, so this is the major level of resistance that we couldn't kind of go over and close over. All right, so we did have a nice pop yesterday, but we didn't close above 122. So that doesn't really matter, right? Because we didn't close above 122. Yes, we got a nice pop on some very, very bullish volume and bullish flow, but we didn't end up closing above it. So that doesn't really matter, right? So the close really matters the most rather than the high. So, you know, at some point, I expect us to get back over the daily 10 SMA here, all right, since we did gap below it today and we ended up rejecting off of it at the highs at 120.30. And right now the 10 SMA is sitting at and closed at 120.29. So 1 cent difference from the current or today's high of the day and where the 10 SMA closed today. So, you know, for Google, we're able to see, I believe, yeah, we were able to see a 45% return. Okay, or 40% return, 40% plus return. All right, so around 9:45, I advised my private CFO members, okay, so right around here on this candlestick, as we're hitting 120, I said 30% plus on Google. Can't take profits, like I said, right? So again, I was guiding everyone into this trade when we entered in at that break over 118.80, and we rode the way all the way up to the top, right? So, you know, it's a pretty it was a pretty good trade, and it kind of saved the day here. Okay, so let me make that again. Okay, and so we're able to ride all this entire momentum up higher until we hit that major level of resistance at 120. Obviously, we could have held more. That trade probably hit 40 to 50% or 45 to 50%. But for people who did exit when I did tell them to, I mean, obviously, you know, in hindsight, we could have held it a little longer. But, you know, if people swung it, I mean, it could work tomorrow. Why? Well, again, we have this nice cup and handle, right? I gave you guys this analysis into tomorrow, and if you guys aren't into Google yet, this one is definitely a contender for either a swing trade or especially a day trade for Friday, the end of the week. And so again, if you guys want to see an entry point, a breakout point basically for this cup and handle chart pattern, look for an entry point over at 120.30. So once you're able to break over 120.30, that's when you get in, and we can see a potential retest around 120.85-ish. okay, which is going to be at the retest of this descending level of resistance, which is a part of the broader descending channel on the daily time frame. Okay. All right, so that is the trade that really saved us after the initial damage control that we had to do with CRM. But again, PATH, we didn't do much. Well, again, we didn't touch anything on PATH. But I did tell my private CFO members that there can be a potential change in plans, and we can actually roll up into further out contracts that expire in August, since we have the contracts that expire at the end of July, which is the 28th. So, hopefully we can see Google just continuously going up higher again and potentially breaking out finally out of this descending level of resistance plus this 122 horizontal level, so that we can obviously see a retest of 126 once more. And that will be our third retest, okay? That will be, again, our third retest. So basically this one right here, this area was our first, and this area was our second, okay? And then, actually that's our fourth. So we have another one right here. So this one was our third retest, and then potentially sometime in the future, we can see another fourth retest at 126, and possibly by then, with that fourth retest, we can see a breakout of over 126 and potentially head up back to the 130s. Okay, now that sounds all good and all, right? It sounds really, really good, but there is a potential bullish crux. Okay. Right, that could kind of impede our bullish bias on Google here. So on the weekly time frame, the 21 SMA is catching up. It's curling up higher to the price, right? But the distance, okay, between the weekly candlesticks and the weekly 21 SMA is a bit too far away, right? So the reason why I'm saying this is that, well, when the weekly 21 SMA is kind of far away like this, hopefully you guys memorize this or write this down, right? One second, guys, let me drink some water. So whenever we get this huge difference in distance between the price on the weekly time frame and the weekly 21 SMA, this usually indicates that the price will most likely consolidate for longer. Okay, and why is that? Well, the reason for this possible and most likely probable extension of a consolidation here is that the price will want to see the momentum weekly 21 SMA to catch up, and once it's close enough, right, then we can see the bullishness coming back in, because there are a lot of buyers. Essentially, it's what's happening here. There's a lot of buyers sitting on the sidelines before they are looking to come back into Google and see that bullish momentum come back in again. And that could potentially happen once the 21 SMA has caught up. And guess what? There's evidence for this. And this is the reason why I know that the number one reason why Google does not want to break out on the weekly time frame is that it wants to extend its consolidation phase in order for the weekly 21 SMA, okay, to catch up to the price. So right around here, back in, I guess all of April, right, all the way up to early May, we saw the weekly 21 SMA curling up higher, and eventually it got close enough to where the price was able to break out immensely to the upside. All right, and so that's exactly what I want to see here. And so if the weekly 21 SMA, now this is all predictions now, right? So this is all speculation. I believe if Google's weekly 21 SMA here is able to go over 112 and ultimately go retest 114, at that point I expect the weekly candlesticks to have a nice breakout to the upside. All right, and out of this descending channel chart pattern. And again, this is a very, very textbook descending channel. All right, so if I even expand these trend lines. So these are very, very, well, this one specific chart pattern is very, very textbook here on the weekly time frame, right? And so this is kind of how I prepare for the future, right? As I'm doing my analysis. So basically, I'm using my SMAs, the chart pattern that is currently forming, historical data from the past that we see here, and etc. So I'm basically just using my naked eyes here to figure out what's going on and what could potentially happen. And that's how I speculate on what could happen in the near-term future. And so again, for Google, I need to see the weekly 21 SMA, which is currently closed at 110.08, to catch up to 112, and then to 114, which is where I expect the price to break over 122 and be on its way to that 126 resistance level. Okay, so Google, again, today we had a very, very good trade to the upside. We wrote the momentum move up higher. So this is what we like to call momentum scalping or momentum day trading. Okay, so again, it's either called momentum scalping or momentum day trading. All right, so this is what allowed us to be break even, especially for me, and for others to at least recover the losses that they had for CRM or PATH. And some private CFO members actually added to PATH, and I'm actually looking to do that tomorrow, especially if the bounce is sustained. And I love how it closed today as well on the 15-minute time frame. We had a large influx of bullish volume, right? Now, the only thing that I don't like about PATH is that it wasn't able to make new high of the days today, like we saw on Google, right? And also for CRM as well. Okay, so like with CRM and PATH, they weren't able to make new high of the days like Google. Okay, and so if you guys are choosing which names to kind of trade tomorrow on the last day of this week, and you guys are looking between Google, CRM, and PATH, I would specifically advise you to possibly look at Google. Okay, because of the fact that we were able to see new high of the days today and completely erase the overnight losses, plus, or actually not overnight losses, but the early morning after market open losses. Okay, because again, Google hasn't filled in the gap yet, so it doesn't, it can't be identified as a name that has recovered all of its overnight losses. All right, so again, I would choose Google because of the new high of the days that it continued to make for the other half of today, and it's making that 15-minute cup and handle chart pattern. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, now let me give you guys a free trade idea. So for the people who are watching this recording, if you guys made it through all the way to the end, well, congrats. You guys had this potential trade idea that can really help you guys either tomorrow or into next week. So this can become a potential over the weekend swing that can provide you guys with some good gains. And I'll tell you guys why very, very soon after I go over the analysis here. So again, big tech, very nice bounce off of the lows today. Specifically Amazon on the daily time frame, we've been making very, very good higher highs and higher lows. So very, very typical uptrend. All right, so we're still nowhere near the highs that we saw in 2020 and 2021, but we are chugging along pretty well. All right, so this uptrend is kind of losing its steam, but there's a chance that we can actually see a nice little pop to the upside next week because Amazon's Prime Day is coming up. All right, and I believe Amazon Prime Day is from July 11th to July 12th, if I remember correctly. Let me see. Yeah, so July 11th and July 12th. Okay, so Amazon announced that Prime Day will take place on July 11th and July 12th. Okay, and so obviously this is becoming a 2-day event, not just a singular day event as it was supposed to be, since it's called Prime Day. So now it's called Prime Days, I think. they should change that name. But so usually Amazon stock tends to get that sense of euphoria, that little hype, and that's kind of what we're looking at with this trade. So for Amazon here, I love the fact that it did come back down to officially retest the 21 SMA on the daily time frame. And if we do start to move up higher tomorrow and potentially retest the daily 10 SMA, the 21 SMA would have officially, well, it would look like the 21 SMA has touched the candlesticks here, or the price, because right now we're slightly over the daily 21 SMA. So it looks like we bounced at this 127.40-ish demand area or level of support on the daily time frame. And if you look right here, this 127.40 level was used as a level of support on the daily time frame. And then if you look in the past here, back in mid-June to late June, or early June to mid-June, excuse me guys, we used it as a level of resistance. So I love the fact that we are making this into a new level of support for potential continuation to the upside. And so this hold of the daily 21 SMA and this 127.40 support or new support level just tells me that there is still some bullishness into Amazon for a potential spike up higher off of the catalyst that is the Prime Day or Prime Days that is occurring next week from July 11th to July 12th. So the actual trade that we got into today was, right, so at 7:47 a.m. So let's go down to the intraday time frame. So my favorite one here, the 15-minute time frame, as you guys should probably know by now if you guys have been watching me for quite some time. Okay, so we started to make a nice or kind of a weird looking cup and handle. Again, just like the other big tech name Google, right? We kind of see these weird cup and handle chart patterns throughout the entire kind of overall big tech names today, because again they're kind of following each other along. They're kind of synonymous with their price actions when, well, especially when the market starts to get volatile like it did today. And so Amazon here is just, again, making a simple cup and handle chart pattern, right? Even though it kind of looks screwed up, right? But I mean, you guys can get the picture, right? Cup and handle, right? It's a very, very typical textbook cup and handle chart pattern. We have the cup here, okay? And then we have the flat handle, right? With the horizontal top and horizontal bottom, or horizontal resistance or horizontal support. Okay, so at 7:47 a.m., right? So right around here, okay, on this candlestick, I said, all right, why don't we get Amazon, okay, high risk swing trade for a for the 132 strike call contracts that expire next week. So July 14th, just like that Google swing trade or day trade. And I said I'm just basing it off on the potential hype for Prime Day or days. So again, this is very speculative because you don't really know what could happen on a big catalyst day like Prime Day for Amazon. But based on what happened in the past, there tends to be a little bit of a bullish euphoria that happens that allows Amazon stock to kind of pop up higher. And so I'm looking to continue to hold on to this one. I actually added on to Amazon here on the, so on this candlestick here, on the same candlestick, all right? And I'm actually glad that I added, because I think I added around, let me see. Yeah, so I added on this candlestick. So I added once we broke over 128 again, right? So on the 5-minute time frame here, right, there is a level of resistance and support at 128, but mostly a resistance. And so once I saw the pop coming in, I was like, okay, you know what? Let's add right over here. And so far the contracts, they actually are break even at the end of the day now at close, And I'm looking for, again, a nice pop over 128.50 or specifically 128.65. If you guys didn't know why I said 0.50, well, 0.50 and 0.00 is what I consider whole number levels on very liquid names like Apple, SPY, even CRM, okay, or overall, just in my textbook of technical analysis, I tend to use whole number levels as 0.00, which is the true whole numbers. We learned this in grade school, right? 0.00, there are the whole numbers, right? And but in this case, 0.50 is kind of arbitrarily my my other whole number that I use for levels, right? So for Amazon, I really hope to see a push up higher over 128.50 and specifically hit 128.65 and start breaking up higher so that we can retest at least the daily 10 SMA again, since we did lose the daily 10 SMA here today with that overnight gap down, right? And Amazon as well made a new high of the day, so hopefully we can see the current high of the day at 128.73 being broken with tomorrow's price action. Okay, so Amazon, hopefully you guys can use the same contracts that I sent out to my private CFO members. Again, they are 132 strike call contracts that expire on July 14th, which is next Friday, right? It's another high risk, high rewarding swing trade. And why 132? Well, we have this huge level of daily resistance at 131.50. Shout out to Joel for seeing this one. Okay, he is my current one-on-one student. So this 131.50, which is a whole number level, again, if we're able to retest it again for, let's see, 1, 2, 3 times, well, if we do retest it again, that'll be the 4th time, right? There is a good chance that we can break out of 131.50 and officially hit my target level at 132. And that is the reason why I chose 132 as the strike for our call contracts. But obviously, ideally, I want the price to go over 132 so that our contracts are not just only at the money, but they can become in the money, right? Because again, when you're trading option contracts, especially out the money contracts, your number one objective is to take out the money contracts into in the money contracts. You want them to have increasing value on those specific contracts, right? You don't want the value of those contracts decreasing, especially if the underlying price, the underlying share price is not going in your favor, right? So that should make sense. Alright, so that is your free trade idea for tomorrow and possibly into next week. So over the weekend, especially if you guys are looking to swing this name just like us and just like we did at the close today. But that is it for tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining. I know this week has been very, very short and very exhausting, especially for everyone who kind of partied it up, right? On Wednesday, okay, for July 4th. But again, thank you guys so much for always joining in and sending in those likes. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. We are right back on our regular schedule for our weekly live streams. And the regular times are back as well at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, so again, the regular live stream schedule is back, right? The regular weekly live stream schedule. Again, we hold them on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great rest of your night and good luck.